everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about identity. So if somebody asked you, what is your identity, what kind of response would you have? Most people would say like who their parents are, where they went to school, where they grew up, what they do for a living, their race, religion maybe, but those things are not really our identity. You can't, find your identity by going on Ancestry.com or sending, getting your DNA results from them. But the reason I want to talk about this is because when you have a firm, solid sense of identity, it makes it a lot easier to make good decisions in life. You'll make decisions based on what you value. So I want to talk about what the Bible says about our identity and who we are and how valuable we are. Jesus said in Matthew 16, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul?" So, in other words, a single person's soul is worth more than the entire world and has more value than all of the riches of this world combined. Just one person. And Jesus wasn't talking about a religious person. He wasn't talking about a person who does good deeds all the time. He just said a man. So it could be, he's talking about anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, what you've done. Your soul is worth more than anything. And our souls were purchased with a commodity that can't be mined from the earth, or traded, or even found on earth for that matter. It's more precious than the rarest of metals or gemstones. I mean, if you think about it, the streets are paved with gold in heaven, from what the Bible says. So the gold is as good as asphalt. I mean, it's perishable. It's something that's not, it doesn't have everlasting worth like our souls do. Also, what purchased our soul was the blood of the Son of God. It can't be counterfeited. It isn't something that can be faked. It's the rarest thing. There's nothing more precious because there's nothing rarer. It can't be duplicated. And so this is what our value is in the eyes of God. Our value is worth His Son. I mean, when you think about that, it kind of blows your mind. And in the Bible, it says that we are His children. He loves us so much that He gave the most precious thing to Him, the most precious thing to Him for us. And when Jesus was here, He prayed to the Father in John 17. I'm going to read you verses 22 and 23. It says, "The glory that you have given me I give to them, that they may be one even as we are one. I in them and you in me, that they may become perfectly one, so that the world may know that you sent me and loved them even as you love me. Now, I encourage anyone to read that whole chapter of John 17, because pretty much the whole chapter is Jesus praying for us, and it's so very beautiful. So I encourage you to read that. It's very uplifting. So I want to touch on a few things. I just wanted to first, I think identity is extremely important because it's the basis for everything else. You know, when we start to believe our own worth and who we are and have this firm sense of identity, then that's what everything else comes from. It's like our root. It's the root inside of us. And you know, religion uses fear, obligation, guilt, and shame to motivate people to change their behavior. Now, this only works for a short term. It isn't an inward change. And it actually makes the root, you know, underneath the bad behavior, it makes that problem that's at the root of it worse, because it reinforces thoughts like I'm not good enough, because you can't live up to all these rules and regulations and, you know, commandments that churches and pretty much every religion holds for you. You can't perform at that level. No one can. And so it reinforces that feeling of I'm not good enough, and that thought that I'm not good enough. And, you know, because you can't seem to get your act together, you can't seem to live up to these rules. And it also feeds self-righteous behavior. You see that a lot in different religions, but I have to say especially Christianity, and it's sad, but you see people have this self-righteous attitude. But when you read the Bible, you know, there's a lot about the religious leaders in the New Testament, especially through the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when Jesus walked the earth. And Jesus wasn't real thrilled with them, I can tell you. He had the harshest things to say to religious leaders. And he was not about religion. Jesus didn't he didn't teach us to be religious. That was not what he was about. But also, you know, you have people, religion will reinforce self-righteousness on one hand, and then on the other hand, it causes people to put up a false face, because you want to look like you have it all together and that you're doing all the right things. That's, even when you're falling apart inside, you have this face on, to, especially to your church, or, you know, to your Christian friends, if that's what religion, you know, you've been involved in. It could be any, because a lot of them do the same thing, because it's your behavior, it's what you do that matters. And so it causes people to be inauthentic, and, you know, this is not what Jesus was about. So, because Jesus, on the other hand, he uses love and acceptance and forgiveness and grace to change us on the inside. And when that happens, when he changes you on the inside and changes your thoughts and your thought patterns and changes the mind, then it comes out in behavior. So he changes the core, the root, deals with the very root of problems in our lives. And most of it actually comes from identity, a lack of knowing who you are and how important you are, and also a fear of rejection. I mean, most people fear that, even when they don't think that that's a problem for them. Most people do have that to some degree or another. It's way worse for some than it is for others, but we all have it to some degree or another. Because at the core of us all, everyone wants to be loved and accepted. Everyone. And, you know, if we live for the approval of others, we will always end up feeling not good enough. But if we operate with the knowledge that we are loved and accepted by God, no matter what we've ever done, when we live from that, and when we know and we have a firm belief in it, and it's a sure thing in ourselves that we know who we are and how much we are loved and accepted, then we won't suffer from feeling inferior, because we know we're not inferior to anyone. Each and every one of us our souls have the same worth, and no one can really make us feel inferior unless we allow them to, because we have to agree with them that we are in order to feel that way. It has to be something that goes on in our mind where we're like, they must be right. I mean, we may not even realize that that's what's happening, but the only way that somebody can make us feel that way is if we allow them to. So that's all I wanted to say, you guys, and have a good day. All right, bye.